Hey guys, Mike here with Countertops.com. Today we're going to show you how to do an amazing metallic epoxy floor. We got movement and marbling in this. The effects are just out of this world. It's extremely fun to do and you're going to love it. We're going to teach you all the tips and tricks of how to do this in your very own space. Stay tuned, watch this video, and then visit us at Countertops.com. Enjoy the video. And it's going to leave the right amount of material on the surface for me. Okay. Now you can see when you start taking this magic trowel to it, what it does. It just really, really beautiful. Hey guys, Mike here with Countertops.com. Today we're going to do an awesome project with this concrete floor. We are going to put Stone Coat Countertop flooring epoxy on this floor, and we're going to show you how to revive this and turn it into something just spectacular. The very first things you got to pay attention to when doing a metallic floor is prep. Prep work is definitely key. That's what's going to make the floor last long term, and that's also where most of the work is entailed. Putting down the epoxy, that's the fun part. Prepping, that's the important part. So we're going to show you how to do everything start to finish, and the very first thing that you're going to want to do is clear the furniture out of the room and not have anything in your way. And after you get that done, you're going to want to mask off all the way around the perimeter of the room. The reason we do that is because if we're moving the epoxy around and we get a splash or a drip or something of that nature, it's not going to get on the wall and it's not going to get on the baseboards. So that's what we've done here. We actually take this machine here. This is called a handy masker. You can get this at any hardware store in the paint department. And when you pull it, it pulls your tape and your paper at the same time, and it's just a really good, neat tool. And we'll put a link up on our site to one of these so that you know how to get one. And these are just really great to have. So what we've done is we've masked off this baseboard, and we went about a 1/16 to an 1/8 of an inch up off the ground. And the reason that we go up off the ground is so when we peel our tape, it's not moving the epoxy. When you do mask off your walls, one thing that you want to keep in mind is you're going to want to wash those baseboards. The reason you're going to want to wipe those down is because when you pull your masking, you don't want to pull dust and dirt from those baseboards into your fresh epoxy. So it's really important to wipe those down and get them nice and clean. After you get your masking done, what we're going to do is we're going to sand this floor. Whenever we're promoting adhesion between epoxy and a substrate, you really want a fresh, clean canvas to work with. And so that's what we're going to do with this floor sander, is we're going to sand this floor and get all the junk off of it and really get back down to concrete so we have a good mechanical bond. This is an old coating that isn't epoxy that was put on here, and it's been scuffed and scratched and it looks very worn, and so we're going to repair this and make it look just flat out amazing. You can see all the wear marks here where some of the furniture was and some of the thoroughfares where they walk and things of that nature. So the first thing we're going to do here is we're going to sand, and I'm going to show you how that works with this floor sander. You can rent one of these floor sanders at any of your local rental yards, and if you just get a really heavy grit sandpaper, that'll usually do the trick. You can go as far as to grind the floor and do those things, but we're not only going to do a mechanical bond on this floor, we're also going to do a chemical bond. We want both avenues of protection. So first thing we're going to do is sand it on up. Okay, as you can see, we went through here with our floor sander and we sanded this floor. We used a 20 grit sanding pad, and that did the trick. You really want to get your floor, if you have mastic or if you have glue, if you have carpet adhesive, whatever you have on the concrete, you're gonna wanna get the proper tool to remove that and get it back down to concrete as best you can. We have some of the original dye and stain still gonna be in this surface, but we've really opened it up. It's gonna be a great surface for us to apply our epoxy to. Next thing what we're gonna do is we're gonna grab our vacuum and our brooms and we're gonna sweep this up and vacuum up the dust to prepare to clean it. So that'll be our next step. Here we go. Okay guys, we've vacuumed up the entire floor, we've got it sanded, and one thing that you're going to want to do, especially on new concrete, you want to make sure that your new concrete has cured for at least a month, 28 days. After it's cured, you're going to want to do a plastic test or get a moisture reading on that concrete. And the way that we do it is we just take some plastic, we have some thick mill plastic here, and we tape that off, and we do this around the floor throughout the job site, and we'll let it sit overnight. And then what we'll do is we'll come back the next day, we'll peel that up, and we'll make sure that there's no moisture, there's no discoloration here of moisture that had gotten trapped by the plastic. If that's the case, it means it's still releasing moisture, and you don't want to put the coatings on when there's moisture coming through the concrete. It's the dead of summer right now, it's nice and warm, this concrete's a few years old, we're in no danger of any moisture, so we're going to go ahead and proceed, but make sure you check and be sure that there's no moisture coming through your concrete so that you have good adhesion. Okay, now that we're ready to proceed forward, we're going to clean the floor with denatured alcohol. And way we do that is just use a mop. We're going to wipe this down with denatured alcohol. I'm just going to dip my mop in our denatured alcohol, and we're just going to go through here and give us a good cleaning. How you doing there, Catherine?
Getting it done, almost there. I'm almost to the fun part.
How important is it to have a good, clean substrate before we do floor and epoxy?
Oh, it's essential. Every time that everything's in the prep. The fun part is obviously the best, but in order to get there, you got to do the hard work. And it makes it worth it. That way, when you do that hard work, it stays in for as long as you have your home.
It has dried and we are ready for our next step. Now this is a really important step because if you have a wooden subfloor, you're going to do the same step on the joints and the nail heads of your actual substrate to fill those in. What we're going to do is we're going to take our Stone Coat Countertop Epoxy and we're going to use our vertical wall additive. And by mixing the vertical wall additive in with our normal epoxy, you create an amazing paste that's going to act like an adhesive, a glue that's going to fill these joints. You can see here we have concrete control joints throughout this project. Now granted they aren't very deep, but we will fill those in so that they're flush and we don't see those joints when we do an epoxy floor here. If you wanted to continue to see the joints, you could leave them and you could roll your product on thin and keep those joints. But in general, you're going to want to hide those. If you have a tile floor, you can use Level Quick and actually follow the instructions on the bag of Level Quick. You've cleaned and scuffed your tile, put down Level Quick, and now you're ready for a new epoxy floor. In this case, we don't need to use Level Quick because these seams are not deep. On a tile with a bunch of grout, you wouldn't want to use our epoxy additive to fill all that grout in. That would be overkill. In this case, because these are thin, this is an awesome alternative to level quicking the whole floor. Another thing is when you have control joints in a garage. If you wanted to pre-fill those, you can do that. In this case, that's what we're doing here on this floor. It's just an amazing product to do that. And you're going to follow the same instructions that we use to turn this in to a vertical wall kit, but we're not going to add colorant. On our website, you can find just our additive to create the same thing we're about to show you and not buy the colorant for it, because we're going to put color over this after this step. This is the time to fill in those joints and really get this floor ready to rock. So let's get started. What I'm gonna do is on our regular Stone Coat Countertop epoxy that we mix our additive with, it's still a 1-to-1 ratio. So let's pour in a 1-to-1 ratio and mix up some, we're basically creating a thick paste to fill these joints. If you haven't seen our mixing video on how to mix Stone Coat Countertop epoxy, go watch that. It's really important to get that right. But we're gonna go ahead and mix these two parts together right now. Our additive that we're gonna add here is designed to fill a full ½ gallon of epoxy to create what we need here. But we're only doing 1 quart, so I'm only gonna use half the bag to create enough paste to fill my control joints. So let's go ahead and cut that open. I'll use half a bag and we'll mix it together. Whenever you work with our additive here and you're mixing this together, you're gonna wanna wear a respirator because it's really light and it kind of billows in the air and you don't wanna breathe that in. That's important. So you can see this is really gooey now. This is like creamy peanut butter. It doesn't leave my stick very easily. You can see it's starting to roll and it will still move, but it's very thick, and that's what we're looking for. I don't want to leave this in the bucket a long time. I need to work. You don't want to mix up too much at a time. So I'm going to take my hawk and I'm going to put it on my hawk and I'm going to get ready to start applying it to all my joints here. So as you can see, we're just going down here and doing all these joints, and it doesn't take too long, and a little bit goes a long way, just depending on how deep your joints are that you're trying to fill. And this is really important to do on subfloors when you're going over wood. It's really important to do this so that you fill in those seams. And you know, you can use Bondo and things, but this is just Bondo on steroids. It works really good. It doesn't, it's about the best adhesive you could ever dream of. So it works great in this situation. And all I'm doing, getting a little bit out, using that straight blade, go right down that seam, and then just cleaning up behind me. You don't want to leave a bunch of leftover on the slab. You don't want trowel marks and things like that. Okay guys, we're ready for the next step on this floor. We let the joints dry, but not longer than 24 hours. You want to make sure that they're dry, that you can now do your next coat, but you don't want to wait longer than 24 hours so that the next layer will bond without sanding. If you do wait longer than 24 hours, make sure you sand that epoxy with at least 220 grit or lower so that it creates a new mechanical bond. But right now, because it's still fresh, we're good to go. And you can do it when it's still tacky, but you're gonna have to time that. We don't wanna be back rolling on this fresh joint and have epoxy lift. You want to make sure that that's bonded and down, usually at least about 6 hours. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna apply a very thin coat. We call it our prime coat. It's still the same flooring epoxy that we carry, but we're gonna do it at a rate of about 300 square feet per gallon. So a 1.5 gallon kit will prime about 450 square feet. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna first put part A in our bucket, and we have a special way of doing that. We actually use this lid that we've cut out, and we took like a roll of masking tape, traced around it, and we made a little cutout and a little cutout here for the handle. Now why we do that is because then we could actually tilt this over and it will all drain right into our bucket without us sitting there and holding the epoxy. It's a great little trick. We love doing that. and we could start working and doing other things while that drains for us. So when you do mix that, we use a longer mixing paddle. You can get this, again, at Home Depot. We'll have a link to these on our site. And these are long enough so I could stand there and mix and not be crouched down too bad. Another thing that we're gonna do is when we're doing floors, you're gonna wanna wear spike shoes. This is a pair of spike shoes. We'll also have a link to this on our website. Anything that we don't carry, we're gonna have a link to it so you can find exactly what we're using and what's worked for us. But spike shoes or football cleats, anything like that to keep you up off the epoxy with your shoes, it's what you're gonna need when you're doing these epoxy floors. And man, these floors come out just amazing. We're gonna do a black prime coat. And the reason we do black is because we're not going to do a black floor, but the black undertone, it seems to really reflect and enhance the metallics in our next coats. We're going to end up doing a couple shades of brown and maybe some lighter colors, and we're going to marble those together. But the first prime coat, we're just going to do a black prime coat. And so when you order your material, you get to pick what color that you want per kit. And so in this case, we would be using black. You're going to apply all of the whole jar of the metallic into it and mix that in. We're going to show you just how that's done. First, let me show you what tools we're going to use. This is just a normal back roller. This is a shed resistant roller. This is a 3/8 snap shed resistant roller. You don't want a roller that's really cheap that when you roll the ground, it's going to leave a bunch of fibers and hair and things like that in your brand new floor. Another thing you're going to want to do is take some duct tape or some strong tape and de-shed the roller skin. You're gonna wrap some of that on your hand and really get after this and get any loose fibers. Even though it says shed resistant, just do that step again. Make sure that there's nothing loose on this roller. This is a magic trowel. Again, we'll have a link to this on our site. This magic trowel is what we're gonna use to spread the epoxy and get it spread out quickly. I like the tapered corners on these trowels because you can get right to the edges of your work without rubbing a big trowel against the side of the wall. It's a really good tool. I love this tool. And then also, we have a little roller. And this is just a little weenie roller like we use in our countertop projects. But if we're gonna do the edges, we can get right up to the edges with this roller and not hurt the wall. So that's a good little thing to have ready. And then here's a little trick that I like to do. And I use some electrical tape and I tape a little cut-in brush so I don't have to get down. But if I needed to cut something in, I could just use that brush and get right close to the edges. So those are the tools that I like to have ready for me. And then your spike shoes. So let's go ahead and we're gonna pour our next component in there, mix this up, and we're gonna start our prime coat. Let's get started. All right, so when I mix this in, I like to have my drill going a little bit slow in there, and I just pour it right in there. And this metallic powder, it really is magical. It just makes this epoxy just really pop. You want to mix this really good. We usually mix it for about 3 to 4 minutes. Just get everything mixed really well. If you're doing a very large floor, you're going to want one guy doing your mixing, one guy doing your spreading, one guy doing your edges. I like to do, you know, if it's a 300, 400, 500 square foot floor, I'm fine to do it by myself, but it's good to have help on a large floor. You got about 45 minutes of working time, just like our countertop epoxy. It's a good working time, but you want to get it out of the bucket and onto the floor as soon as you can, but make sure you mix it really well. You don't want to have chunks of powder that haven't been mixed in when you pour your floor out. And the powder just disperses very well. Those of you who have used our countertop kits know just how well this stuff disperses. Okay, we're going to pour this out just in beads on the floor. we're just going to get it dispersed out so that it's easy to move around. Okay, we're going to take our magic trowel and we'll start to move this. Okay, so I'm back rolling this section and Catherine's taking the squeegee and she's just going back and forth and spreading the material. This prime coat, you're just getting the material out. You're doing an even coat across the surface. You're going to see through it in some spots because it's a very thin coat, but you're just creating a good brand new surface for that final flood coat of epoxy. So just get it out and don't worry about roller marks and things like that. You're gonna hide all that with your flood coat. Okay, so we're about done priming this floor. We got it all spread out with the squeegee, and then we start back rolling and cutting in the edges and that kind of thing. And then just back roll your way out of the room so that you hide where you walked with your spiked shoes. And we're going to come back when this is tacked up and we'll do our final flood coat and we'll de-prep the room. But this is just going to come out awesome. So this is our black primer coat, and we're going to do a marbleized coat on top. Here we go. Okay guys, we got the primer coat all dry. It's been about 5 to 6 hours since we've done the black primer coat, and we just added our black metallic. We rolled it out at 300 square feet per gallon, and now we're on to the flood coat. This is the coat where we get the marbling effects and the really good depth, and this is the coat that just makes your floor sing. This is fun. We take our coffee metallic in this, and we're going to take our brown metallic, and we're gonna meld the two. You could pick any colors you want, any combinations. You could also add more colors if you choose, but we like to sometimes keep it a little more simple, and then we'll add some accents. You can actually add the same 2X spray paints. We're gonna have some white and black and some chrome. We might add some of that in here, and we're just gonna put the base down, the two colors. We're gonna add the brown and the coffee. We'll check it out and we'll add from there. But how we add this is we're gonna mix up about 3 times the amount. We're going to do a thicker flood coat that goes about 100 square feet per gallon. So our 1.5 gallon kit in this case is going to do 150 square feet. And the way that we gauge that is with our 1/4 inch notch trowel. This is the trowel that we use to initially spread the material out, and then we're going to use our magic trowel to meld it, get rid of our lines, and make it look marbled. And then we actually can take our pump sprayer here. This is full of isopropyl alcohol, and you can actually put different effects into the epoxy using alcohol. So let's get started. First thing that we're going to do is we're going to mix up our material. But I'd like to give you a close-up of this notch trowel so that you know exactly what we're using here. Can you see that on camera? It's a 1/4 inch notch trowel. It's a squeegee, it's flexible, and it's just really good for this application. You're not going to want to get right up to the edges with it. You're going to use the magic trowel for that because it's a tapered edge and you don't cut into the wall. Okay, let's start mixing. Again, this is a 2-to-1 ratio. I really like my little cutout that we do, and it just holds the bottles for you while those come out. And here's our coffee. All right, we just poured in the coffee metallic, and we're going to mix this up. Now, when you get your flooring epoxy kit from us, it comes with the right amount of metallic powder for a 1.5 gallon kit of our flooring epoxy. You're going to want to scrape the edges and the bottom of the bucket while you mix so that everything gets thoroughly mixed. You're going to want to, if you're using a battery drill, you're going to want to have a couple of batteries ready so that you, if you run out of power, you got another battery to back you up. Okay. Now these colors aren't giant difference, but there's plenty of difference in the two to create a marbling effect, and that's what we're going for in this job. Boy, that brown is really pretty. I really like that color. Our floors are actually really easy to maintain and clean. Very easy to wipe up spills. These are done in showrooms and commercial properties all the time, and they're not real slippy to walk on. You just don't want to spill a bunch of water and then walk all over it, and it'll become more slippery than just like tile would. But if they're not wet, it's really easy to walk on. It's very, very comfortable. I'll pour out our coffee first. And I'm just going to pour this randomly throughout the job here. Okay. Let's get some of that brown going here. Now, I don't like to leave it in my mixing buckets a long time, so that's why I'm just getting it out right now. Get it out and we can mix up the rest of what we're going to need. Okay. So we're going to start squeegeeing this out right now. I'm going to use my 1/4-inch notch squeegee, and I'm just going to squeegee this all over the floor here. And the key right now is just to start thinning it out. I'm just going to start spreading it, and I'll start gauging it, and then I'll use my notch or my magic trowel to really move it how I want it to move. And you can just see how beautiful this is going to be over that black. You sound like you're tap dancing when you're in these spiked shoes. Well, I love those two colors together. That's just gorgeous. You know, these floors are all in the prep. It's all in the prep work. If you do the prep right, this part is just absolutely fun. Okay, let's take that bucket. Now I'm going to take my big globs here, and I'm going to work my way back across this floor again so that I can start getting a more even coverage. And this 1/4-inch notch squeegee is just a good tool to get everything even on that floor. This product self-levels really well too. Just coming here to these low points and just covering those. We're going to start mixing up some more material. So in between coats, you're going to want to clean your tools with acetone. That really cleans them off and gets you ready for your next coats. So acetone's the solvent that you're going to want to use to clean your tools. There's no solvents in our epoxy, but acetone is what cuts the epoxy for you. Okay, now you can see when you start taking this magic trowel to it, what it does. It just really, really beautiful. And you can use this magic trowel to really push this in areas that you want it to go. And it's very easy to control. This is what makes your job just super, super easy. So I'm going to take this, just push it right up here. I'm going to work my way right into this doorway. And when you have doorways like this that you're trying to not do the rest of the room, just bring it up, go right to your tape, and you're going to want to pull this tape before you're done with the project, before it dries. If it dries, you're going to be peeling tape for a long time. I'm just going to go up. This is also where you can get your brush and start doing those, brushing in and cutting in those lines. Okay, so what I like to do with this magic trowel is I like to use the back of the blade to really move my material into place. So I have a pool of material there, and then I come here with the edge of the blade and just move it right along that baseboard. And that's a really good way to cut in. A lot of this you could avoid even using a brush just by doing that technique, but that works really, really well just to move your material around, get it over to where you're going to need it. Another thing to keep in mind is if you want a thicker coat to hide more imperfections, if you have a floor with a lot of imperfections, you may want to use more material, and that's just fine. You can make that decision on how bad your floor is or what you're dealing with, but typically we're spreading it at a rate on this coat of about 100 square feet per gallon. So we're going to continue spreading this out and show you how this comes out. Okay, we got a big half of that section done. We've got some more material poured out here, so I'm going to take my 1/4-inch notch squeegee, and I'm just going to start the same process on this side and really get this material. For the majority, you're going to get it spread out, but you're not going right up to the edges. This is just like the workhorse of the project. This is what gets most of it moved for you. I'll just go down the line like that. That's going to start melding the two colors together. And it's going to leave the right amount of material on the surface for me. If you have a low point, you can just push the material back over your low point and then pull it across, and it's going to fill that in. You can see I have the squeegee tilted, and that draws the epoxy to me. It doesn't push it away from me. I'm going to push this up a little bit closer to that edge, and then I'll pull it back to me again.
We like to use a propane weed burner at this point to pop all the bubbles in the epoxy before our next step.
Okay guys, what we're going to do here is we're actually going to take some alcohol in our pump sprayer, and this gives your floor a lot of depth. You can, our pump sprayer here, you can adjust the nozzle to a fan or a heavy spray. We like to do a fan and just mist the top, and it gives it some depth. It melds the colors together. It gives this effect that you just don't get with the magic trowel. So we've pumped this up, and we're just going to go through here and just spray this floor down. And it also helps release some of the bubbles and things like that. It just really gives you that final touch. So we suggest going through with that alcohol, just spraying that a little bit and just finishing that job up. Just gives it that final look that man, you just gives it a three-dimensional look. If you overdo it with the alcohol, you can go back and trowel that spot again and hide your mistake or whatever you want to. But this is just a very forgiving product to work with. You got plenty of working time. We waited till the evening to do this final coat simply because we wanted enough working time. All right, guys, we've gotten this epoxy down. It just looks gorgeous. I love melding those two browns together, the coffee and the brown. It just came out really nice. It's a warm color, it's inviting, and it looks so natural. The movement in here is just beautiful. Thanks for watching. We really hope you enjoyed this video. We hope that you get some insight out of this on how to use Stone Coat Countertop flooring epoxy. It's just a fun product to work with. It's all in the prep. Do a good job prepping and you'll have a beautiful floor for years to come. Visit us anytime at stonecoatcountertops.com. And remember, until next time, from Stone Coat Countertops, you got this.